I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work and are backed by science. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body, and that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. We use only top-of-the-line formulations dosed for maximum results and the best flavoring systems available. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
All right, and we're back for the third compilation of the Live with Dave Palumbo. I'm going to be your host today, Anthony Pasquale. It's been about 6 to 8 weeks, Dave, since we've done one of these. We had a lot of good feedback. Today I'm going to raise the bar with the question. So are you ready to get going today and be interviewed again for the third time?
You know, I got to tell you, it's so relaxing for me to be interviewed by someone else and not have to come up with my own questions and think about, oh my God, what am I going to ask the next? That to me, this is like almost therapeutic. So yeah, I'm ready.
All right, cool. Well, what my goal was, after looking at the first two and then looking at, you know, all the content you create, I selfishly, I want to take an opportunity for people to get to know you better. So the first question we're going to start with today is, everybody knows the Dave Palumbo mass protocol, the Dave Palumbo baby making protocol, the Dave Palumbo low carb protocol. Yeah. I'm not sure how long it's been since you've given everybody the Dave Palumbo how to get away with a speeding ticket protocol. Now, I learned this about 10 years ago. So before you go ahead and give everyone the protocol, I've taught 20 people this. If you're black, if you're yellow, if you're white, if you're a midget, this will increase your odds of getting away with a ticket during divisive times. So Dave, please walk everybody who doesn't know this, by the way, that Dave's always late and he's always speeding. So Dave, take the floor and teach everyone the protocol.
You know what? I don't want to jinx myself because I'll wind up getting a ticket right after this, but I haven't got a ticket in, I can't even tell you how long, but I get pulled over a lot. And in New York, you know, if they have like something called a PBA card. It's a Police Benevolent Association card, and the police officers can give them out to their like very dear friends. And it's, you know, if you show it to a police officer with the right, you know, with the right respect, a lot of times they'll let you go. They don't have that in Florida, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't respect the police. And I you know, I have a lot of friends who are cops, and you know, it's not like something that my family does, but I've been around it so much, and I work with so many police officers who are bodybuilders that, you know, I gotta respect the hell out of what they do, because you know what, I don't know if I could do it. You know, there's a lot of jobs like where I say I could do anything. That's a really tough job. People just don't give police officers enough credit. So, you know, these guys are pulling people over all day long. They're getting lip from people and attitude, and you know, they just want to be treated with respect. And you know what? They're officers. They're laying their life on the line. And so, if you have that mindset when you get pulled over, rather than saying, "Oh man, I can't. Why is he pulling me?" You got to get that negative attitude, number one, out of your head. When you get pulled over, first of all, think, especially if it's night. These guys are walking out of their car. They're walking up to a dark car. They don't know what they're going to see. You know, they're nervous, okay, because there's a lot of nutcases out there. So the first thing you do when you're getting pulled over, you immediately pull over to a safe area on the side of the road. Okay, don't try to like find something. Pull over immediately as soon as they put their lights on or ask you to pull over, you know, from behind you. As soon as you pull over, what I do is I stop the car, and you know, I don't have keys. Everything's like a push button now. But back in the days with the keys, I'd actually take the keys out of the ignition, and you roll down the windows. I don't care how cold it is, both sides. So if sometimes two officers will come from each side, and you put your hands on the steering wheel. Okay, that shows them that they're not going to reach for a weapon. There's no reason for them to be nervous. You're not going anywhere. That's a sign of respect. And then you know what? When they ask you something, you say yes sir, no sir. That's the respect you're giving them. It's almost like you're in the Army and you're responding to an officer of high rank. And when you do that and you speak with respect to these people, right away it sends a message that, you know what, you're not an asshole. You know, all right, maybe you were speeding or maybe you were doing something erratic, but now at least they're going to talk to you, in a rational manner, and they're not going to have this, you're not creating a confrontational adversarial relationship, and they're not nervous. And then, if they ask you what happened, if you have a good excuse, you can give it to them. But don't try to talk your way out of a ticket. Usually they'll be like, let's say I'm speeding, for instance, and they say to me, you were speeding, and I might say, yeah, I really lost track of time or whatever, or I was in a rush, and I shouldn't have been speeding. I'm really sorry, officer. That's it. There's nothing else to be said unless you're on the way to the hospital. Your wife's giving birth. Then that's a really good excuse.
We were on the way to the hospital and got pulled over.
That's right. Sure. Oh yeah, that's right. Tyler was in the thing when I got pulled over.
I was driving.
Tyler was driving too. What did I say? Did I give him an excuse?
You made it quit. We were just going to the hospital.
Oh yeah, I said we were going to the hospital, but I was very respectful, right? Yeah. And we got out of it. We didn't get the ticket. So one time I got pulled over just recently around here, and my wife always says they always give tickets when you get pulled over here. And the guy was a bodybuilder. Now he didn't say he knew me, but I think he knew me, and he let me go. He's like, all right, a lot of times they'll run your license, and they'll come back, and then when they see your license is clear, then they'll let you go. Or a lot of times they get a warning or something like that. But look, sometimes, someone's in a bad mood and you're going to get a ticket no matter what. It doesn't matter what you say or what you do, but you always treat them with respect, show them that you're not, posing any threat to them. And most of the time, you'll get off with a warning. And once again, it doesn't work every single time, but you know what? Anyone who's a police officer who's watching this, who pulls people over, is nodding their head, because that's all they want. They want respect, and they want to feel safe when they come to your car. And that's the best you can do. And if you're acting like an idiot and doing something stupid and you deserve a ticket, you're going to get a ticket. But you know what? You're not going to get, 5 tickets, because if you mouth off and you treat these guys with disrespect, they're gonna give you everything they can give you, okay? And that's not going to bode well for your license or your insurance when that goes up through the roof. So be smart.
I'll piggyback on that. And when you taught me this protocol and your listeners 10 years ago, it was true, and I think this part of it's even more true now. When you were talking about it in the past, you said, hey, even something as simple as grabbing your registration or your license, if it's in the glove box, say, excuse me, just so you know, my registration and my license is my glove box. Yes. I'm going to go reach for that. It sounds kind of silly, but giving that kind of respect, probably more so than ever, is really important. Yeah, no, you're right, and I forgot that whole procedure. Anytime you have to reach into a pocket or into your glove box, always tell them what you're going to do and ask them if you can do it before you do it. That, once again, lets them know you're not going to reach for a gun. They know what you're going to do. They're not going to get nervous. You don't want a cop getting nervous where he's going to pull a gun out on you, okay? That's not what you're looking to happen. You don't want to escalate anything. There's no reason for that. And it doesn't matter what color you are. If you treat a police officer with respect, you're going to get treated with respect back. A lot of times we see police brutality, and it's because, look, I've seen it happen. People lose their mind when they get pulled over or they're being questioned, and they speak back. They speak like they're talking to someone on the street, like where they're going to get into a fight with the guy. That's not going to make the cop make him feel calm. He's going to want to get you on the ground and put some cuffs on you so you can't do anything to him, because this police officer is vulnerable. He might be the only one there, and his life is at risk. So he certainly would rather have you in cuffs than not in cuffs. So just treat these guys with respect. Next question for you is, and I'm genuinely curious about this. Back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, the first times I went to DavePalumbo.com, I don't recall if you were selling books on there, but you definitely gave recommendations. I think Power versus Force, maybe some Wayne Dyer stuff. Yeah. My question for you is, what's the last book you've read? Did you ever read much fiction, or do you read much fiction? But what was the last book you've actually read or picked up?
I'm embarrassed to say. I went through a stage where I was reading like a book a week when I was in my self-discovery phase, probably from 2004 to about 2006 or 7. I was really reading like crazy and just like trying to, not really reading science books, which is what I normally would read. I was reading spirituality books. I was reading about the supernatural. I was reading about everything that I never believed in, that kind of thing. I said, what, now it's time for me to learn about this, about what's beyond what I can actually tangibly see and touch and hear. So, I read a lot of books by Wayne Dyer. Everyone knows I talk about that a lot. And at one point on my DavePalumbo.com, I had like a little spirituality portion of the website, which kind of, when I redid my site, it kind of just disappeared. I don't know what happened to it, but I probably should leave it up there and put up, because I know a lot of people do ask me for book recommendations. I tell them the first Wayne Dyer book I ever read was Manifest Your Destiny. It was a shorter book. It was more of like a how-to book, and it was great. And I read it literally probably 15 to 20 times, this book, over and over and over again. And it's till it sunk in, and I got it. And then I went and started reading his other books, and I really enjoyed it a lot. But the last book I probably read was probably The Complete Boa Constrictor, believe it or not. Because, you know, I read the book because the guy who wrote it is actually a friend of mine, and I didn't know he was a friend of mine until I realized that I worked with him at a pet store 30 years earlier. But he actually wrote the initial The Complete Boa Constrictor, read that book from cover to cover, and then he came out with a second edition like 5 years later, and ironically enough, when I read the first book, I hadn't even bred a single boa. In the second book, he actually incorporated a picture of a boa constrictor that I actually bred that no one had ever produced before, like a color variation. So I had to read the book, right? Because I had a picture in the book. So, but you know, it's I hate to say it, since I've had my kids, I really have no time to do anything, and I just don't have time. If I were going to read a book, it would take me a year to read the whole thing, because I'd probably read 2 pages a night, you know. But I highly recommend that if you have trouble sleeping at night, which I used to, now I don't, because I don't get any sleep, so I can fall asleep anywhere. If you have trouble sleeping and turning your mind off, read something unrelated to what your interest is. So if you're into supplements and bodybuilding and all this stuff, don't read a bodybuilding book or a magazine. You're going to get too revved up. It's going to get your mind moving because you're too interested in that. Read something spiritual, or read something like your self-help or something like that, like a Wayne Dyer book, because it will relax your brain. It's not anything that you have to actually think about. It's something that it's going to help you in terms of self-reflection. And I think that's a better way to calm your mind at night before you're going to go to sleep. And even if you read 3 to 5 pages a night, it doesn't matter, because if it takes you 2 months to read a book, fine. But you know what? You're teaching your brain to think about good things at night, not stressful anxiety things at night. If you, like I said, if you're like me and you hardly sleep, and my wife, we can fall asleep. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where I fell asleep. I was telling Tyler, I went to get my teeth cleaned at 8 this morning, and I only had like 3 hours of sleep last night. The hygienist said, I've never seen anyone fall asleep during an entire teeth cleaning. I said, she's like, I was afraid you were going to bite my hand open. Bite my hand. I said, well, I sleep with my mouth open, so you're lucky. But that's how tired I am now. But seriously, that's how I used to do it. I couldn't turn my brain off because I was always thinking about what the next thing I was going to do is read something relaxing.
I'm going to piggyback on with what you just said right there, because once upon a time I wasn't a big reader. And what I realized was, for me, because you're hitting it on the head, it is relaxing for people that don't do it. And a lot of times people pick up a book and they think, oh my goodness, I have to read this whole book. Right. I figured out, for me, the best way for me to read consistently was start really small. It was read 15 pages a day. That means I'm only turning a page basically 7 times. Right. And that means I'm reading 500 pages a month, which means I'm going to read, 300 or 400 books over the course of my life, because I'm the guy that has all these books and was always like, I keep buying books, I'm never going to read them. So that was my way of attacking it. Yeah. And also with meditation, I'll piggyback on that, where I found the only way I'll meditate is by taking one deep breath. Once a day, I said, just take a breath. And if it feels good, take another one. Sometimes I might take 20, sometimes I might take 25 breaths.
Right.
So sometimes you just got to really lower your expectation.
Yeah. Also, well, you know what you do? I used to play this game with myself. I would be like, okay, I'm going to read this. I'm going to read some Wayne Dyer. I'm going to leave off where I took, or take up where I left off. And no matter how many pages I read, I'll read 3 pages, which for most people, they would probably get through that in 3 minutes, and they wouldn't even remember anything they read. I said, but I'm going to try to extract a message that's meant for me out of these 3 pages that I'm going to read. Okay? And I would read them with such. And even if it was something frivolous, I would try to get a take-home message. And you know what? If you do that in a book like that, you will find a message for yourself, and you will be able to make it applicable to your life in some capacity. And it's a game you play with yourself, but it really is. It's a lesson you're teaching yourself. And you could do it while you're sitting on the toilet. Literally, you could pick up the book right there and say, okay, I'm going to read this. I'm going to read 2 pages. And I'm going to find a message in these 2 pages that it's going to be relevant for the rest of this day. That I'm going to be, let's say it's in the morning, first thing in the morning when you're on the toilet. And you know what? I guarantee you'll find that message. You will. I promise you. It's like almost like it's divinely sent there for you.
The reason I wanted to ask about the reading is, and maybe I don't know if something you think about with yourself, and maybe a lot of the viewers and listeners don't think about it, but I do. It's, you own multiple businesses. You've been doing this stuff for a long time, and we live in a world where you live and breathe on YouTube. There's a lot of people that want to learn business or figure out business, and they feel like they need to always read a book. So were there ever stages where you were reading business books, or like, how'd you kind of figure out how to run multiple businesses at the same time, or did you make a lot of mistakes and that's really how you learned?
I think we all make mistakes. I don't really enjoy the running of the business aspect. I got to be honest with you, my wife, Amanda, is the genius behind that. She taught herself, really, self-taught how to run the businesses in terms of, ordering product and doing QuickBooks and all the accounting aspects of it. The most important part, really. I mean, I'm the face of the product, and I'm the creative aspect of it, and the marketing and maybe sales come through me because of the education I put out there on the product. But as far as running the business, that's her forte. I don't try to do anything that I don't feel that I'm good at. If I know I'm going to be good at something, or I think I could be good at anything, I apply it myself to, but I have to like it. So if I'm good at it and I like it, I'll put so much into it that I'll be the best at it. And that's how I look at it in my head. So I think being successful in business is surrounding yourself with the right people who can do the right tasks. So for me I'm sure I can do Amanda's job, but I would never do it as well as her because she's a detail-oriented person. She sees all the possibilities where things can go wrong, whereas all I see is what could go right. I don't look at, and unfortunately, when you're running a business, you have to be able to anticipate the pitfalls, because otherwise, you'll make mistakes. And I've made plenty of mistakes, in my business. I probably have lost a lot of money over the years. My belief is always like, well, I could always make more money, and that's true to a degree, but you don't want to lose money purposely. You don't want to just it's like having a leak in your house. Like, if there's a leak there, it's stupid to let to keep letting the thing leak, right? I mean, you might as well fix the leak. I mean, it doesn't mean you won't have water in your house, but it's going to also mean that you have a mess in your house. So I think that you have to find the right people. And it's unfortunate also because, it's very hard to find someone who will work as hard as you for your business. I don't know if that makes sense, but it doesn't matter how much you pay someone. If it's not their business, they're not going to work as hard as you will. And so you'll always be disappointed if you don't come to grips with that. And so it's hard to hire people because you'll always be disappointed. So you have to say, okay, you know what? I'm hiring someone to do this job and this job only. And then so you have to almost like compartmentalize the jobs. You can't give someone too much to do if they're not an owner of the business, because then they're going to fail, basically.
Yeah, and I agree with that, because I think that applies with everything, whether it's business or even something as simple as somebody out there that has a little bit of money saved and they think an investor is probably going to be better with their money than them. Yeah. The reality is if you're passionate about your savings, you're probably going to be better with your own money than some investor most of the time, Yeah. My question for you is, back for our bros out there, Dave Palumbo tomorrow inherits $1 trillion, okay? So Amazon buys rxmuscle.com. So one of the stipulations, though, is you have to put a billboard. You get to put a billboard up in every gym across the globe. You can put the billboard up. What would you have it say on there for every person that comes into a gym? What's the message you want people to understand when they work out?
Don't quit.
Don't quit. That's pretty straightforward.
You can't fail if you don't quit. I always say that. The most tenacious people. I work with people. I've had people come to me and say, I want to compete. Okay, I have it all. It happens all the time. And I want to be on the Olympia stage. I want to be whatever. I want to be on the national stage. I want to be a pro. I want to be. And for most people who do this, they're never going to get there. But I have people that have come to me that have shocked me. Whereas, because I'll work with anyone. Anyone who wants to work, I want to work with them, because I believe that everyone can change the way they look and can make themselves better. To what degree or how the length, how far they can go. I always tell people, don't ask me how far you can go, because I'm not. Once I put a limitation on you, you're going to limit yourself. So don't limit yourself. I've had people come to me, and you know what? They looked so bad when they first came. They had no muscle. They had no conditioning. I thought they had no genetics for anything. And then they just listened to what I said, and they worked hard. And you know what? In 2 years' time, I got them on stage, and in shape, they were unbelievable. Like I couldn't believe that body was underneath what they brought to me initially. And that's just because they were tenacious. They didn't quit. A lot of people would have quit because there were times where they looked terrible. And I'm thinking, this person looks terrible. But you know what? I'm going to keep applying what I know works. And if they keep doing the work and putting the work in, and I had to yell at them, and I had to like tell them what to do. I had a guy the other day, I asked him, what he's eating. And he's like, you tell me what you're eating, I said, what do you mean you tell me? That's not my job is to give you a diet. But if I make changes, or if I don't make changes, I don't think I remember what you ate, what I gave you to eat, 2 weeks ago. Your job is to give me your pictures during an update. It's to give me your current diet and to fill out this chart I give you. That's your homework assignment. I'm not your mother. I'm not going to chase you down for your homework. Provide that. That is what you have to give me, and in turn, I will give you the information that you need to look the way you want and look your best. And that's the contract that we engage in when we have a client. So the people who don't quit and who are relentless and who do not give up, okay, and who are willing to go into that pain zone, into that discomfort zone where normal people would say, I can't take it, I got to eat something, or I have lightheaded, I don't feel good, I'm dizzy. I get all the complaints, and I try to dismiss it and sidetrack them a little bit. But the bottom line is, you're not going to feel good when you're at 0% body fat. You know that, Anthony. You've been there before. But the people who don't quit succeed, okay, and they achieve what they want. So I think too many people are very quick to like just give up because they don't see immediate results from what they're doing. If you haven't eaten right for 5 years and you're out of shape and you haven't gone to the gym, you're not going to reverse that in 3 weeks, okay? You're not going to reverse it in 8 weeks, okay? But in 8 months, you could, and you could look really good. You have to, but you can't quit. Don't quit. I tell this, even in the reptile breeding world, the mantra is, if you want to be a successful reptile breeder, just don't quit. If you keep doing it long enough, you're going to succeed. These animals will do what nature intended them to. They will breed. They will breed with each other, and they will produce babies. You just have to set up the right conditions for them, feed them, clean their cages, and let them do their thing. And that's the same thing with working out and with anything in life. Don't quit. If you want to be an astronaut, don't quit. Go to school, get the degree you need to go to flight training school, apply, to NASA, if you have no health problems, don't give up, and you'll get there, and you'll be an astronaut in space one day. There's no like special like card they give someone at birth. Okay, you can be an astronaut because we know your parents, and no, you got to just work hard. The right stuff. Remember that movie back in the 80s? It's about the people who are willing to endure the most bullshit and torture. Those are the people who get to go to space, So it's the same thing in anything in life. Just don't quit.
Yeah, as you're talking about that, years ago, probably 7 or 10 years ago, I shared this story on RX Muscle, and it's key for everybody out there that's listening or viewing that has any sort of aspirations to accomplish something, I guess, within the fitness world. Right? Is I realized, or at least I realized in my own mind when I was reading Chris Aceto, one of his original books. Yeah, he mentions it in there 2 or 3 times that it's really about your pain threshold is going to dictate the level of your physique, okay? Now, when I read that, I interpreted that personally as going professional was a choice. Right. Because I said to myself, if I'm willing to suffer more than anybody else, then of course, once I realized, or I conceived in my mind, it was a choice, it changed the game. Right. And I'm sharing this for a reason, because the other day, there's a nice guy named Nick in this area. He's being trained by Jose Raymond right now, and he's got an honest shot at going professional. He's doing some shows. I don't take training serious anymore, but we've got together a week ago for a couple workouts. And the point is, after I put him through some workouts, he's significantly stronger than I am because I don't really do much anymore. Right. But my level of intensity and what I would define taking him to what his capabilities are within training was things he wasn't experienced to. He's much stronger than he realized. He has more endurance than he realizes. Right. And so the point is, for a lot of people out there listening, I really can't emphasize enough that you may think you're training all out, and you're probably not. So this is my question or thought back to you. Yeah. I know you mentioned David Goggins recently, and I agreed with everything you said on that's just self-torture to some degree is a little too much. It's unrealistic, not sustainable. I believe that most people probably within the gym context are probably hitting 60, maybe 70% of their capability within training. Do you agree with that? And do you think that's what holds a lot of people back more than they even realize as they're listening, because they don't even know they're that guy or that girl?
I think that their training is not efficient. So I think what some people define as giving enough in the gym is are they there long enough? Have they done enough sets? Have they done enough reps? I don't think people extract enough out of that workout. So I think people think it's a volume of how long you're there, and that's what defines intensity. And I would challenge that in 3 seconds. I'm sure Dorian Yates would do the same thing, because I didn't train that long in the gym, but man, did I put a lot of intensity into the workout that I did there. And when I first started, I was not giving 100% either, and I didn't realize it until I trained with someone who was stronger than me, who knew how to train better than I did, with better exercise form and execution, and I actually relearned how to work out through this person. And I've talked about him before. I've had him on the show, Doug Wentz. And once he taught me how to train and then push into that discomfort zone, and I used to complain. He'd be like, "Stop bitching, get under the weight." And I'm like, "I never lifted this much." He's like, "Well, today you're going to do it." And he was right. I was able to do it. So sometimes you need a mentor or someone there who's going to push you into uncharted, unfamiliar territory. And that's why I think a training partner sometimes is good to have, because they'll put you there. Otherwise, if you go to the gym on your own, you'll stay in your comfort zone. You might train hard, but you're not going to go out of that comfort zone. It just doesn't, it's hard to do on your own. So having a good training partner who could spot you on a regular basis definitely will help you extract more out of what you're doing at the gym.
Speaking of mentors, because that was actually a question I considered for this, was, as someone that's followed your stuff for a long time, a lot of people listening and viewing are new. Some people have been around since the beginning.
Yeah.
Or at least it always came through in the videos and in the recordings, that you appreciated some of the work and some of the technical savvy and interviewing skills of a Howard Stern.
Yeah.
I know you've always really looked up to guys like Dr. Scott Connolly or Doug Wentz you're mentioning here. So with mentors now, are there things, whether it's within snake breeding or within your craft and what you do with DavePalumbo.com or putting on seminars or with your YouTube channel, are there any sort of things now you draw inspiration from, the kind of, this is what I need to do, this is what I'm striving towards? Like, do you get inspiration now from outside resources?
Right. Well, I think in the reptile breeding, I'm hardly an expert. I'm probably, I'm starting to become an expert. So I'm still, getting, tips and tricks from experienced breeders. So in that respect, I'm very humble in the snake breeding world. Whereas, in the bodybuilding world, I feel more like I know I'm at the upper, level of knowledge. But what I find is that I'm always finding new things out that I didn't know. So I thought I knew something about this, but I really didn't. Or I might have given advice about this one topic, and I never really went into it and said, why am I giving this advice? What's the mechanism behind this? So I'm always learning. The good thing is that I have this, maybe it's a bad quality, it's a good quality. I like to be right. So if you're one of these people that likes to be right about everything, you better know what you're talking about. Because you don't want to get caught in an argument with someone or a debate with someone and you're on the wrong side because you're wrong. So I never say that I'll never debate or go after someone unless I know for a fact that what I'm saying is scientifically sound. In order to do that, you have to constantly be educating yourself again. If I had a question on protein metabolism that was at a very high level and I really didn't understand it, I would certainly reach out to Scott Connolly. Because he would be able to give me a definitive answer that I would believe above and beyond anyone else. There are some good websites online, especially some of the PubMed and all the journal articles that are good to check too, to make sure that what you're reading online is accurate. Because just because someone started, IinjectSteroids.com doesn't mean that whatever they're writing on there is the truth. You don't know. They could have an agenda. If I'm trying to market a product and I put out a website about the information of this ingredient, it might be to try to sway people to want to buy my product. So you have to know how to read with a discerning eye as to, hey, is this a marketing site or is this actually really a site that's trying to inform you on things? So there's not many people I could actually at this point in time actually reach out to. Now, when I got my colonoscopy the other day, before I went in, I had to meet with the GI guy. And this guy was really like an alternative like type medicine guy too, which is amazing because you never see that in like in a GI guy. And we were talking about nutritional supplements, and we were talking about fiber supplements, and I was telling him about Fiber Lies, and he was really impressed with it. He's like, yeah, people don't understand how important that is. And so if I was, and I asked him a couple of questions about the colon and colon health and probiotics and what and that was someone that I can ask as an expert, because this is what this guy does for a living every single day. So it's nice to make connections. I also have my cardiologist I have on I can text the guy. I mean, he's a bodybuilder first and foremost. He became a cardiologist. So if I'm going to ask, if I have a question about the heart, I'm going to go to him as the expert, because this is what he does for a living. Because I might not know for sure. I might look it up online and I say, you know what, I'm not really sure if that's right or not. And I might bounce an idea off him, and he might say yeah or yay or nay. Usually we're in agreement about what I bounce off him, but he's the guy who can at least go to someone even above him and ask. So I think never think that you know more than everyone else, because when you do that, you limit yourself and your knowledge base, and you stop learning. So, and because knowledge is constantly expanding all the time, and we're always learning new things, what we thought if I knew everything 5 years ago, and I took that same knowledge base to today, I wouldn't know everything anymore, because there's so much more knowledge every single day we're finding out. So never close your mind off and think that you can't learn something new.
Yeah, it's interesting you say it, because there's two things that come to mind. The first that comes to mind is yesterday I was listening to an Audible book. I had to go for a really long walk to pick up my car. And on the way over, I was listening to an Audible book by Byron Katie, and she said something very interesting in the book, which I appreciated. She said, be wary of a teacher who now thinks they're the teacher, because the true teacher knows they can always still learn from their students, because they're always learning.
Right.
And there's so much truth to that. The one thing interesting that you said was, I didn't even anticipate that coming up, but when you mentioned the third-party sites, I know before when I first sent you all the VAVA product, then I sent because sometimes people are like, how do you know this? Or where does all this research come from? I sent you that mushroomreferences.com.
Yeah.
And I encourage people to look at that, because that's a third-party site that's updated every day that tells you on the medical studies going on real time for fighting viruses and cancer with mushrooms. So did you ever get to look at that site?
Yeah, no, it's actually pretty good. I actually thought it was something interesting. When you brought up mushrooms to me and mushroom extracts, it was something that I really didn't have that much knowledge on, because I just hadn't delved into it. I mean, I always knew I eat a lot of mushrooms on a daily basis. I eat them because I like them, but I also know that they have medicinal properties to them. That you probably, that we don't even know half the benefits. But I just intuitively think that they're good for you. I don't know why, but I just think that it's a good thing to consume. When you sent me that site, I started reading some of the references and stuff like that. I was really, really impressed. I mean, you came out with, when you came out with your Monad product and your Wisdom product with the different mushroom extracts in there, I thought it was a great thing you did, because you kind of took like a niche that was kind of unexploited, and you kind of said, well, I'm going to go someplace where no one's gone before, rather than just try to do the typical pre-workout and fat burner and all that type of stuff. And that's why I got behind your product, and I recommend it to like almost everyone. If you guys haven't seen vavalife.com, it's a great website, and the two products that I'm using continuously, I've never gone off of them. I do them every single morning. Is the Monad product, which helps with going after viruses and any kind of like I guess you could say yeast infections and stuff like that. It naturally kind of is a natural antifungal and antiviral. And then the Wisdom, which of course I'm afraid, we're probably you too, we're all afraid of getting dementia right now in this, now that everyone's living to 80 plus years old, we want to still have a sound mind when we get to there. So I've been using that, for the neurogenic and the neuroregenerative effects of that product. And, it's one of these products that, when people say, hey, when you take a multivitamin, what do you feel? Well, you don't feel anything if it's doing its job. It's keeping you healthy. You're just not declining. And that's really what I wanted to do. Taking your product, it's more of you're not going to feel it necessarily, but you're going to stay sharp, you're going to stay healthy, and you're not going to decline. And I think that's the kind of product it is. And unfortunately, in our society, we want people want to feel something right away. They want to drink an energy drink and feel like they're going to go, climb Mount Everest. But the best and most potent nutritional products out there, you don't feel anything when you take. when you take V mineralized, when you take like omega-lyzed for essential fats, or a mushroom product for your immune system, you don't feel anything, but what you feel is you never get sick, or you never, nothing bad. You recover from your workouts, or you stay healthy when you go to the doctor and you get blood work. All your markers come back. The best validation I had is when my colonoscopy came back, and he said it's the cleanest colon I've seen in probably the last 10 years. Now I'm thinking, you know what? Now all the advice I give out on Fiberlize, I feel validated. All right, you know what? I'm actually not full of crap. Now people can see, hey, I'm a 52-year-old guy. My father and my sister both have polyps, every time they go for colonoscopies, and I don't have a single polyp in me, So there's something to that, okay? And that's called keeping yourself healthy. If you keep yourself healthy, you never get sick. You don't want to have to try to combat things, you don't want to wait till you get sick to actually try to cure yourself. Although there's nothing wrong with that, it's just you're better off keeping yourself healthy to begin with.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say on that is for people, it's kind of like we live in a world now where I think I've heard you say it before, where if someone's competing and they got like something on your back, you're like, just go to the doctor and get it removed.
Right.
Or if people have really bad acne nowadays, there's some things you can do to kind of combat it. And I always say it's like, guys, girls, you don't really have to suffer from cold sores. You don't want to have cold sores when you're competing. So just take the fucking Monad and you're not going to have to worry about cold sores anymore. If you do get a breakout, take 5 capsules and it's gone in 36 hours instead of maybe 6 days. So